I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer, delighted to be joined right now by Metcalf-Fisher. She's from the Countryside Alliance. They, of course, promote issues relating, to the countryside, obviously. And obviously, the biggest issue in the countryside right now, as we know, is, of course, the inheritance tax that's being imposed for the first time on family farms, handed down 20% tax on that for any farm worth over £1 million. Mo, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure you didn't mean to misgender me there.
I'm genuinely. Do you know what? I actually said to my producer, I said, "Is Mo a man or woman?" Then they said a woman, and then they corrected me and said he. So I do apologise, Mo. I'm sure you're identifying as whatever you are. That's what we do now, apparently. Mo, let's talk about the protest yesterday. I mean, look, peaceful protest, just a couple of tractors, only went on for a few hours. A lot of people, very, they're angry, but they were obviously civil and they were obeying the law, and that's really important to keep the public on side. But there are already, ongoing battles with, Keir Starmer and with the Chancellor Rachel Reeves over how many farms are going to be hit and whether or not there's any possibility that the government is going to back down. What do you make of the protests, and do you think they will actually make any difference?
I mean, it's a great question. I think it was absolutely important we all assembled in the way that we did. I think the 5 farmers, the family farmers who set that up at quite short notice, did an absolutely amazing job bringing people together. And the point is, Julia, that community, they're not career protesters, okay? For some of them to come into London yesterday was a huge deal. Some of them probably hadn't even been to London.
Well, Caleb had only been a couple of times with Jeremy Clarkson, hadn't he?
They're too busy working on the farm, feeding, getting food for us to eat. And so, I was asked loads of questions about how many people do you think will be coming? And I said, look, if 500 of them turn up, that in itself is a significant number. Yeah. But to get the thousands of people that we did, admittedly, they weren't all farmers. There was lots of other country people, people from hospitality, as well as town.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? People whose jobs depend on the farming industry, but also crucially people who aren't going to be affected by that inheritance tax, but still supporting the farmers who say they will. But the big debate seems to be still, almost a month after that announcement in the budget, how many farmers are going to be affected? The government keeps saying it's only a very small percentage. We know that the National Farmers Union and others are saying it's far more than that. And then there's some talk of, a little bit of financial planning, go and see your accountant, they can sort that out, or you can gift away your farm. As long as you don't die for the next 7 years, you won't be affected by it. But, I mean, how are we, us townies, who aren't dealing with it personally, how are we supposed to make head or tail of who's telling the truth?
Well, I've listened to the people that seem to know what they're actually talking about, which is the farming industry. And then if you're warning those figures are wrong and that they have figures that suggest a much higher number, I'd go with what they say. I wouldn't trust the Treasurer on this at all. They seem to be all over the place. I mean, DEFRA's own figures were at 66%. What on earth is going on?
Well, apparently DEFRA, the Environment Department, didn't even know about this tax going up until the day before the budget, having told farmers and the National Farmers Union explicitly, that they would not be putting this tax up. But this is the thing. No one could agree how many farms are going to be affected. How do they know how much money they're going to make out of this?
Well, I mean, we were told yesterday, I don't know if you saw the front page of the Telegraph, but Rachel Reeves saying you need to pay towards the NHS. Well, the suggestion there being that farmers actually do pay a lot of tax. They work incredibly hard and they care about our NHS as much as anyone else. But also, the money raised from this tax goes to something like a day's worth of NHS spending. Yeah. I mean, she's just all over the place. And look, it's not about backing down and U-turning and causing political chaos. Just get round the table with the farming unions, work out what's going on, and let's rethink this policy before it's too late, because it isn't yet.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, I can see this one running, and part of the issue there is where does this protest go? How does it develop? Does it move on any further? Because I think a lot of people, obviously, there were people who early on might have been supportive of like the Just Stop Oil and all of that. I think the Signature Rebellion, they started impacting ordinary people going about their daily lives. Now, they were deliberately doing that to impact people. They were making demands about the whole running of government and our economy, which people weren't willing to give into, but also they were breaking the law. Is it crucial that these protests stay within the law?
Absolutely. I mean, you saw great behaviour yesterday. Farmers are law-abiding people. They know they've got the public on side with them on this, and that was reflected yesterday in terms of behaviour. But my concern is that an increasingly desperate community does something that goes beyond protest. I hope that it doesn't get to that, but what we're going to start to see probably is a lot more smaller scale protests pop up around the country, a bit of a revolt, I'd say. But let's not forget, Julia, during the early noughties over the hunting debate, it got so toxic for Labour in the countryside. Yeah. This is coming back now. This is how it feels.
But there were some Labour MPs quoted today saying, this lot don't vote for us anyway. Although, of course, we now got 100 MPs who've got large parts of, rural countryside in their constituencies, who are obviously getting a little bit worried.
Absolutely. And they must feel they've been thrown under the bus here. I mean, what consultation did anyone have with them? But at the same time, Julia, those MPs, those rural MPs that worked really hard campaigning to win over the rural vote, they actually need to put their heads above the parapet and actually start making some noise. Our president, Baroness Maliou, fantastic person. She gave a speech at the rally yesterday. She seems to be one of the only Labour voices that gets it, or that's at least willing to publicly speak out. Yeah. But Labour MPs need to stand up for their rural constituents, particularly if they have a countryside constituency now.
OK, well, we shall see how this develops. Metcalf-Fisher is External Affairs Director at the Countryside Alliance. Thank you so much for joining us.